been almost a year since Tom Mulcair took over the reins of the NDP.
We have to rally progressives of all stripes.
Long day, but for you, an extremely exciting one.
Mr. Mulcair is proving to be, in ever so gradual, ever so step-by-step manner, the hidden, subdued factor in the great national race.
Every time Canadians get fed up with the scandal and corruption, the Liberal Party goes looking for a new savior.
Are you ready to replace the politics of fear and division with the politics of hope and optimism?
Canada's got a new leader, Tom Mulcair.
He'll fight for my family.
Who cares if I can make ends meet?
The NDP has respected all of the rules every single step of the way. In this election campaign, Canadians have a clear choice. 4 more years of Mr. Harper and the Conservatives, or my plan for change.
A senior bureaucrat and career politician, Thomas Mulcair seems to have come from out of nowhere. As the Justin Trudeau brand crashes and burns, and yet the people remain fed up with Stephen Harper, a new false hope is needed to give the illusion of change. Mulcair began in Quebec as the only anglophone at the Council de la Langue Française, the government body that regulates Quebec's language laws. When Robert Bourassa's Liberals took power in 1985, Claude Ryan became the education minister, and he pulled Mulcair into his inner circle. During that time, illegal English Catholic schools were openly defying Quebec's language laws. Despite efforts to shut them down, Mulcair and Ryan eventually crafted a compromise that allowed these outlaw schools to stay open, but by imposing stiff fines steep enough to prevent any new schools from opening. That success led Mulcair to the head of a provincial regulatory body that attempted to control professionals. He confronted doctors' organizations over what he saw as their failure to discipline physicians over alleged sexual misconduct. This was in the 1980s, the beginnings of the era where everything now must be politically correct. And for Mulcair, time spent in the Quebec Liberal government instilled in him the skills of what he calls rigorous public administration and the enforcement of regulation. His mentor, Claude Ryan, was, as Mulcair put it, very tough. He was very Irish in that way. But he also had a good Catholic streak in him. He was always devoted to social issues. That is, government intervention in private life. Mulcair eventually won a provincial seat as a Liberal and became known for his ruthless attacks. He forced a PQ minister's resignation, then he started making similar claims against a PQ lawyer, which led to a defamation suit in which he lost. When Jean Charest's Liberals took power, the staunch anti-separatist Mulcair was rewarded by becoming the Environment Minister and Deputy Premier. Charest and Mulcair worked well together for a bit, but they continued to bump heads, as Mulcair put it. Mulcair claims a decision to sign over land in a provincial park to a condo developer was the precise moment when he decided to quit. That and a demotion to Minister of Government Services. After leaving, he started speaking to the Tories. While the corporate state media have barely touched upon this, when they have, it's been under the suspicion that Mulcair would join the Conservative Party as an advisor to Stephen Harper. But as Mulcair maintains, the Tories were too far right on environmental issues, the same problems that led him to leave the Quebec Liberals. Of course, in the halls of democratic government, it's all about power. Here's Mulcair in 2001 singing praises for Margaret Thatcher's wind of liberty and of liberalism in the markets. So another theory is that the roles were reversed. Mulcair met with Harper staffers so Harper could advise Mulcair. It's no secret that the neoconservative infiltration of the Canadian Conservative movement was captained by Stephen Harper. With a little help from his Republican friends, the goal since the early 90s has been to deride the Liberal Party out of existence, thereby merging the left into the new Democratic Party. In the end, Canada would be a two-party state of Conservatives and the NDP. The secret meetings with Mulcair may have been in regards to his future role as NDP leader. Harper knows the Liberals depend on the Catholic demographic, particularly in Quebec. Getting a Quebecois former Liberal, pro-Thatcher, and Catholic churchgoer as your NDP opponent would be the only way to defeat the Liberal dynasty when they brought out Justin Trudeau as their leader, coupled with a growing resentment of the Harper brand. Assuming that Harper and Mulcair are not ideological enemies and are in fact partners in crime, I'm willing to bet this secret meeting was a play-by-play Tory tutorial on how to rise to the top of a party, muzzle your opponents, steal an election, cultivate successful propaganda, and fool the masses. Publicly, it was a diversion of opinions that kept Mulcair out of the Conservative Party, and the Conservatives are upholding this version of the story. Whatever happened, Mulcair joined with the NDP. He recalls meeting with Layton and his wife Olivia Chow more than once. I guess it was about a 6-month process, he recalls. Mulcair ran for the NDP in a by-election in Montreal's Outremont, a longtime Liberal stronghold, in the summer of 2007. In the previous year's election, the NDP's candidate had taken 17% of the vote in the riding. Mulcair won it easily with 48%. Even with Jack Layton still alive, Mulcair started the process of refining the NDP. Mulcair took charge over the French portions of the party, objecting to predominantly leftist messages in the propaganda. Mulcair had contempt for the party's emphasis on expanding entitlements like government-funded daycare and prescription drugs. But for starters, Quebec already offered these benefits as provincial programs. That's why we pay pretty high taxes, he says he told Layton. If you start promising a whole series of new social programs to Quebecers who are already paying for the ones they've got, they're not going to get it. Mulcair's actions upset some veteran NDPers, but he ridiculed them for aiming too low, content with incremental growth instead of planning for power. He immediately took a hard line against any anti-Israel bias, even going after veteran NDP BC Member of Parliament Libby Davies. Persistent complaints from within the party started to emerge. Mulcair was too ruthless, too good at finding one's faults and then using them to his advantage. Mulcair, for all intents and purposes, was the NDP's Stephen Harper. And it's likely that in those secret meetings, that's exactly what Harper and Mulcair were discussing. Not that Mulcair needed Harper's help to be ruthless, but advice on how to be the most tactful and skillful. Mulcair still had to rise the ranks in the party and overtake his competitors after all. When Jack Layton died, and for argument's sake, let's say he represents Vladimir Lenin, there was a power struggle within the party. On one side was Layton's campaign director Brian Topp, or Leon Trotsky, who was expected to win the leadership nomination and lead the party to victory. Mulcair, or Stalin, made his move. Like always, he brought in a close personal friend and ally for help. Raoul Gerbert came aboard as campaign manager, and Gerbert showcased Mulcair's skill set of being a good debater and fluently bilingual and a confident media personality, rather than emphasizing policy or ideology. It was working perfectly until Ed Broadbent, former NDP leader and top advisor, went public, deriding Mulcair as too divisive and hostile to lead. Like Lenin's testament to the party Congress warning of Stalin's ruthlessness, Broadbent warned of Mulcair's alienating personality. but Mulcair and Gerbert used the attack to their advantage, generating sympathy for the MP from Quebec. Mulcair won the leadership and got to work right away. Once leader of the party, Mulcair began his full assault towards buying the next election. He began using taxpayer money that is a part of the parliamentary budget of MPs to fund satellite offices in ridings where the NDP didn't win any seats. Once this was discovered and investigated, the Board of Internal Economy demanded that the 68 MPs involved pay back the $2.7 million they owe. Mulcair has completely dismissed any questions about this, answering the media's questions with, "You have a great morning." The NDP has denied any wrongdoing, citing the internet as their reason. As in, anyone can work from anywhere, therefore it doesn't matter where the money physically goes. They also said they will fight the repayment order in federal court. The NDP essentially took public money and used it for party purposes. And then there's the robocalls. You thought that was just a conservative phenomenon? In 2003, the CRTC fined NDP MP and Foreign Affairs critic Paul Dewar $7,000 for robocalls. Without a doubt, the NDP are buying this election. So while the corporate state media has focused on Justin Trudeau, and with even the conservative attack ads putting all their efforts into the Justin image, Mulcair has worked from behind the scenes. Like Stalin's rise to power, Mulcair has been tactful and attentive. He's ruthless, he has a temper, and you don't want to get on his bad side. But he's also very vigilant. He's a senior politician and bureaucrat, and he knows the ins and outs of political life. Angry Mulcair is obviously the left's answer to Stephen Harper, crafty with a politician's skill set that is incomparable with anything Justin has. Mulcair is the real fraud that people are being duped into. There is no left or right, just state power at the expense of the people. And Mulcair is certainly no improvement over Stephen Harper.